This video is brought to you by Iona, North America's premier charging network. With unmatched commitment to elevating the customer experience, Iona is opening America's roads to all EVs, giving drivers the coverage they need, the reliability they deserve, and the amenities they crave.
Hello and welcome back to another Out of Spec Reviews video. If you don't recognize my face, I'm normally over on the Out of Spec Detailing channel, polishing up cars, doing ceramic coatings, and making all sorts of different detailing related reviews. But I'm here today with the brand new quote-unquote refresh Tesla Model S Plaid. We're going to be giving our first impressions, talk about all of the new changes, talk about what stayed largely the same on this car, and take this for a spin to see how the new Model S checks out. Welcome back, and let's jump into it. Well guys, you joined me here on a beautiful Colorado evening in Loveland, Colorado, here at the Loveland Tesla Service Center. The guys here are always incredible. I actually reached out to the team and said, hey, I'd like to film some content with the new Model S. I saw you guys got one in. Could I steal it overnight so the car's not gone during business hours? If somebody wants to come check out the new car, take it for a test drive, because they actually only have one of these. And they said, yep, no problem. Pick it up during closing hours, bring it back the next morning when we're open. So a huge shout out to the team here. They are always awesome. So here we have the newly refreshed Model S Plaid. Now, I think when this car came out, being Tesla, how they always do this, made a post on X and said, here's the new Model S. I think a lot of people were a little frustrated with Tesla and saying, wow, they literally went the laziest route possible to quote unquote update, refresh the new Model S. And I think I was kind of in that camp. But I've thought more and more about this, and you're going to hear my thoughts throughout this video. So first off here, I want to go through specs and pricing. New Model S Plaid, we're going to focus on really specifically just the Plaid in this review in terms of specs, how the car drives, yada, yada, yada. Starts at $99,999. So honestly, for what this car is, you have 0 to 60 in 1.99 seconds, over 1,000 horsepower, 3 permanent magnet motors, around 100 kilowatt hour battery, 368 EPA rated range of miles on this particular wheel and tire setup. If you bump up to the 21s, it's 328 miles of EPA rated range. That's a lot of car for 100 grand, I think. And this particular car we're going to be testing today, price as spec, right about $105,000. So this is finished in the lunar silver, the base wheels, and the upgraded white interior. So I think first off here, I want to go through, talk about first impressions of the new refresh. Now, I think let's get the elephant out of the room. Is this actually a refresh? If you actually look up the definition of a car refresh online, yeah, this technically qualifies as a refresh. Tesla is not communicating this as a refresh. They're just like, hey, here's the new Model S. It's got this, and this different. We're going to go through everything that's changed in this. So yes, technically this is a refresh. What a refresh is slightly redesigned headlights, bumpers, wheels, sometimes different suspension components, but the body in white, all of that kind of stuff really more or less stays the same. And that's really what we have here. So number one, do you guys think Tesla did enough with this car? I'm not sure. We're going to figure that out throughout this video. So of course, up front here, you can see we have a fully redesigned front bumper. And honestly, in photos, I was not super thrilled on it because old Model S, which is sitting conveniently right there, I think just has such a good presence. You see a Model S, especially in low suspension. Also should mention, I cannot get this in low suspension during park. It looks a little 4x4 mode here. Nonetheless, Model S is just a really imposing, striking car on the road. I've always loved how they look. They just have this really wide, muscular stance to them, and they look sleek, they look fast. I've always been impressed with it. So what do you guys think of the new bumpers on this car? Because really, That's major what's changed. So the new rear end here, it's got a very interesting different flick here on kind of this rear shelf. You've got another hard body line there. You even have some kind of vents over here and a very large diffuser. So this to me kind of got the Model 3 performance treatment, which I think is nice to have. Old generations of Teslas, a Model 3 rear wheel drive versus a performance looked exactly the same. The only way you could tell was maybe by the wheels, but really by the brakes. So I do think it's good that Tesla has kind of taken that same characteristic from Model 3, now put it over into Model S, because if you get a new Model S refresh, it looks exactly like the old one. You don't get the seats, you don't get the spoiler or the new bumpers. There are new wheels for it, but largely it's mostly the same car. Even back here, the new spoiler, slightly different here, how you have this little indentation, very similar to new Model 3 performance. Let's go back up front here. I want to show you a few design changes they've also done up here. So you do have the fog lights now with this kind of large piano black section here. You can see the air curtain that goes right in this particular area. Really like the new front splitter on this. And this actually looks surprisingly decent in person. First photos I saw of the new kind of, I don't know what you call this, nose cone area with the matte carbon in it, I was like, ooh, that really doesn't look good. I think it actually looks pretty decent here. Do I prefer the older one? Maybe slightly. Man, that's just such a good looking car, especially the ultra red one right there. Man, that just thing looks imposing. So overall, from the exterior point of view, does the car look largely different? No. Again, being a refresh, mid-cycle refresh, some new bumpers, some new wheel and tire options, I don't think it's really that big of a change. Now, if I were to spec out a new Model S Plaid, my recommendation would be spec the base wheels and immediately take them off and sell them. Purchase some Martian wheels over at martianwheels.com and get some really nice looking wheels. These wheels for me, especially in person, are really not it. This does not get Plaid Model S vibes, 1,000 horsepower, 3 motors in this. It's, yeah, not my favorite wheel design. Let's quickly look at the tires here though. So running a 255/45/19 Continental Pro Contact up front. We're running a staggered setup. Yep, 285/40/19 in the rear. Yeah, just not a big fan of the wheels. That's my first impression, but other than that, the new rear end looks pretty darn good. The new front end looks good. Again, I really like the whole premise and prowess of having the big boy car being kind of different from the more normal one. I think that's really how it should be. So what do you say we quickly look through the interior here? Now we have the same door handles as usual. Pop open, feels pretty nice. Those have been an issue over the years. I kind of have a feeling they're going to be the same issues because the part really hasn't changed. Actually, in the out of spec Plaid, we had one of those fail, and I believe Alyssa had to ride in the back seat from Fort Collins to Tesla Loveland here and hold the door closed because the door physically wouldn't latch because of these broke, but pretty interesting. So this is the $2,000 white interior upgrade. You get carbon fiber with this. You get some really nice looking seats. I'm really anxious to take a seat in these. Man, I think these look fantastic. Very similar to Model 3 Performance, but very different seat. First thing I'm noticing here, side bolster here, really hard. So it feels like there's almost like a plastic piece in here, which I do think is good. The reason being is new Model 3 Performance bolsters here, you can just push these things all the way to the ground and you get a ton of wrinkles in that area. So I think this will help keep this from deforming quite a bit. So that's great. I really like the micro suede in here. I think that's a really nice touch. This looks like you are just being sat in and hugged by a panda. I think it looks really nice. Carbon, as always, looks really good. It almost looks like a black tinted carbon that I'm looking at it. Maybe that's just the sunlight right now or my sunglasses on. I think it looks really nice. But the interior, all in all, really hasn't changed from quote unquote last generation Model S. We do have some new ambient lighting. If you can see it right there, we'll go through all of that probably when we're back at the shop, when we can actually see it, not in direct sunlight. But overall, man, Model S is just such a nice place to be. Really like the back of these seats. Man, they look really nice. Material's great here. Looks fantastic. Even the back seat has the kind of micro suede in here. I think the cool thing with micro suede, it's a nice accent of a material, and it's naturally going to hold you in the seats a little bit more instead of being on the quote-unquote vegan leather here, not going to be sliding around quite as much. Those are like little grip pads there, which I do think is pretty cool. But yeah, largely, if you've had the last generation Model S, it's not going to feel a whole heck of a lot different inside. So let me jump inside, talk to you about the comfort of these seats, go through a few more things. All right, well, you guys join me here in the driver's seat of the Model S Plaid. First impressions, seats are fantastic. Absolutely fantastic. I got to be honest, I like them more than the Model 3 Performance seats. For whatever reason, I'm a very big dude. Not that that's for whatever reason, but for whatever reason, this big dude fits better in these seats than the Model 3 Performance seats, which I really didn't expect because they look, especially at the bottom, a little bit tighter. But man, these are really, really comfortable. Love the bolsters in kind of the rib cage area. Those feel fantastic. Bolsters on the thighs actually feel amazingly good. Feel like I'm just stuck into this seat. So yeah, I'm curious to see over, like a long road trip, if these would get tiring. I would say probably, yeah, over the base long range seats, but man, these look good. You have to get these seats. Again, just a little panda giving you a hug here. Absolutely love them. So they're awesome. Yeah, I mean, that's all you need to say about that. So let's flip the camera around here and see what else is new. And yes, largely the same Model S we've seen for quite a few years now. And I don't really think that's a bad thing. Model S, I think, feels really nice in the interior department. Again, I really appreciate the boost from the new seats, and I actually really love the ambient lighting in here. Tesla didn't go overkill on this. I think they did it in one of the most subtle ways possible, but it's so nicely implemented. So of course, when you jump into the car, it has the new Tesla that comes up and it shoots the light out the side. Pretty cool implementation. But what I really love here, if I turn off the ambient lighting, it is imperceptible. So originally looking at photos, I thought it was going to be like a light strip in between here or here, kind of similar to you see on Cybertruck, Model 3, and Model Y. Also weird that it's been so long, S and X haven't had ambient lighting. Thankfully, we now have it. But the implementation here, you can't tell this has changed whatsoever looking at the dashboard and door card from last generation Model S, but then you turn on ambient lighting and it just magically appears through that. Really, really nice. Absolutely love that. Down here also on the center console, you have ambient lighting. Of course, you can change it to whatever color your little heart desires. I think it's really, really nicely implemented there. So screens are largely the same, of course. They are the same, and I think that's a good thing. The screens in these are incredible. The snappiness of the software, the route planning abilities with these cars, the way everything is implemented, very simplified, very easy to use, really, really zero knocks on Tesla software. It's bar none, in my opinion, the absolute best. You can't ding them for that. Up here, I think most people buying Model S and X really appreciate having a center gauge cluster here, having speed on here, some different information. I believe there's a new thing with the drive modes that actually shows up here now. And speaking of drive modes, that's where some things have actually changed over here. So in Model S, you used to have a full suspension tab here, but now things have actually moved into this drive mode, which is interesting. I actually love this implementation. So if you go into drive mode here, put it into comfort, you're in chill acceleration, light steering, comfortable ride and handling, and higher ride height. If you bump it up into standard kind of all across the board. Plaid firms everything up. Then of course you have custom mode. So this is how I would set up the car. Plaid acceleration, light, comfort, lower ride height. So slammed, but a little bit more comfortable on the damper, and full acceleration. But the cool thing is, like, hey, I want to go up to a canyon road. I want to cruise on the highway in absolute comfort. Boom, I'm here. I want to hit the canyons. Boom, I'm in Plaid. Everything's stiffened up. That's pretty cool. And then of course, you can come in here. I prefer always, to have steering on light. So if I want to bump it up, you just go into sport. Really cool implementation. I like that. So Kyle's actually going to insert a clip here of what old generation Model S looks like in the suspension menu.
Hey guys, this is what the suspension menu looks like in the old Plaid. This is my Model S. And so in the suspension tab, I've got low, medium, high, very high, all the adjustable suspension damping settings, and even going into ride comfort separate from handling. I actually really like kind of this weird opposite system here, because you'll get a very soft primary ride, but as soon as you put in some steering input, it will firm up the dampers for the handling section. But for now, I'm just cruising on the roads. And of course I can set default ride height to low. And of course I can also get all the cool suspension data right here, and it will show the graph of the vehicle moving. It's not too useful to have all this, but I do think it's fun to watch sometimes while I'm just sitting on the highway in autopilot, and it'll show me, where the percentage of compression and rebound damping's happening with the electronic valves in the actual damper, which is pretty cool. And of course you can see the body acceleration on all four corners. So that's the suspension menu in the previous generation Plaid.
Do you prefer the old way they've done it or the new way? Now, one of the things Tesla has mentioned that they've changed with the new car is new bushings in the suspension and slightly different design, I believe. I'm not 100% sure what they've changed. Once we get out on the road, I'm going to give you my impressions of the new suspension. We'll probably start it off in very comfortable mode and kind of turn it up as we go to really see how the car feels. But yeah, overall, interior wise, the car feels largely the same. Really like the ambient lighting. Beyond 10 out of 10 with the seats. They are super, super nice. So what do you guys say we get out on the road and see how the newly refreshed Model S drives? Right. So let's get out on the road here, get some impressions of how the car is as a whole, suspension changes. I want to talk a little bit about NVH to see if the car is a little bit quieter, how everything's feeling. So I've selected drive mode comfort. I just want to see baseline how this thing does around town, around little undulations, kind of some potholes here and there. And first initial thing I'm noticing, already a rattle in the rear. So that is unchanged from Model S of previous generations. Still have a few rattles in here. Over to this location where I'm starting to film here, noticed a few buzzings over here in the dash, up here above my left ear. Definitely a few small little rattles. So I can definitely tell you rattles are not gone, which is definitely on the more frustrating side. I would completely agree and say that. So first impressions of sound, actually pretty quiet and really pretty impressive. Honestly, it's definitely, I've driven over here, so I've been on the highway. I've done a few different things with the car, and it is definitely noticeably more quiet. I will definitely say that. So wind noise has substantially been lessened. Road noise is better. You still hear a little road noise coming through, especially over areas like that. I don't know if you could hear it through the mics there, but definitely still some noise coming through the cabin. So this is not, 100% isolating like you'd find in Audi e-tron, BMW i7, something of that nature. So I will say it's gotten quieter. It's not 100% an isolating cabin. So Tesla does some stuff as well with the noise cancellation, and it's interesting. On certain pavements I'm talking and can kind of hear a little bit of an echo, almost like you kind of have that seashell type vibe over your ears. I do hear a little bit about that. I wouldn't say it's bad by any stretch of the imagination though. So we're still in full comfort here, going over not rough roads, but not the most perfect roads ever. And yeah, it feels pretty smooth. The biggest thing I've noticed is some bigger manhole covers. When you go over them, you get a big compression and it kind of unsettles the car a little bit. That could be the meaty tires on these as well, being all seasons, but it feels like quite a bit of deflection still in the suspension. It kind of makes the the car feel slightly nervous over the big bumps, but the nice part is all the little stuff is definitely feels slightly better, and that could be to the new bushings that they claim they have done here. We'll see over railroads. Yeah, pretty smooth. Again, still hearing rattles up here, which is definitely frustrating, but for driving around town, still a really comfortable car. Still, yeah, feeling very, very nice in that category. So let's kind of bump this up into standard, feel how that feels. Definitely noticing a little bit more feel. Firmness of the steering wheel firmed up there, as well as now we're in standard acceleration, not the full crazy Plaid mode here. But yeah, this thing, I can tell you 100%, anytime I get back in a Plaid, and I'm glad I take some time away from driving Plaid and then come back to it, because it feels that much faster when you get back into it. It is just insane how this thing can just bam, and you're gone. It's like teleporting. And again, I think that's the crazy thing. You know, Tesla increased the price, quote unquote, increased the price on the new Model S, and yeah, it just, for 100K, where can you go get a 1,000 horsepower sedan that can absolutely blow the doors off, you know, most supercars? It's truly incredible. So we're gonna go over here on some of these more deserted roads. We're not going to go crazy. We're not trying to do jail time or anything here, but we'll put it into Plaid, kind of see how this thing feels here. So turning in, so crazy. You just give it like literally no throttle at all and just, yep, you're gone. It's just absolutely crazy. So this is a rougher road here, which is why I wanted to come back to this section. Quite a few bumps in the road, and even in Plaid mode here, still very compliant, still pretty comfortable. I personally like a suspension where I can feel the road coming through. I'm not a huge fan of, like, you know, BMW i7 where everything's so isolating, because the car just feels kind of boring to me at that point. But yeah, for me, it's just crazy. So let's give it a little score to throttle here. Just roast the front tires. Just unbelievable power. It is, yeah, absolutely freaking insane. These are always fun little curves to come through. I've got my computer over here. Don't want to launch that through the dash. But yeah, Model S feels like a big car. Anytime you're, you know, driving around some corners, there's no doubt about that, especially daily driving a Model 3 Performance on full mount and pass suspension. You definitely feel more of the weight. But man, when you're on a rocket ship, you are just strapped in and boom, you're gone. It's pretty crazy. It's really funny. I did an acceleration on an on-ramp, and yeah, just kind of smacked the throttle. It was at higher state of charge. Just roast the front tires. It's absolutely insane. But one of the craziest things about this car is the way Tesla does their traction control in motor. I mean, it is just wild how it'll roast the tires, it'll pull power a little bit, and then once those tires regain traction, boom, you're just on a freaking rocket ship. So super cool stuff there. Yeah, so we're gonna turn down this road here, and we're gonna go head out to the highway. I'm curious to see how comfortable it is on the highway on video. I've already done some driving with it, so noticeable improvements in terms of, you know, NVH, and suspension definitely feels a little bit better. Let's just do a little launch. I hope you guys can see beautiful mountains there, but let's go in 3, 2, 1. God, it is wow. Yeah, that never gets old. I can't say that enough in this video. That never gets old. The most frustrating thing about this car is every single other car you get in feels slow. Maybe not Lucid Sapphire, maybe not Taycan Turbo, but damn, for 100K, you just have that at your disposal. And it didn't really spin there. Like the Conti's actually hooked up pretty well there. So that's pretty darn interesting. But man, what a cruiser here. So I'm gonna end this clip off here. We're gonna go get on the highway, kind of see how it does, just regular comfort mode cruising on the highway. Because from my impression and my experience with Model S, that's where this car is just really set. All right, guys, so we're gonna pop the car back into comfort mode. We're gonna cruise down this, it's not a highway here, but it's a higher speed. We're around 65 miles an hour speed limit here. And yeah, NVH here still pretty darn good. Not hearing a ton of wind noise. It is pretty windy outside as I'm looking at the trees blow around me. Actually really windy, nice and gusty here. And this is really what the Model S is meant to do. Hop on an interstate, sit at 80, 85 miles an hour, munch the miles. It is so freaking good at that. So, you know, I've done race to Vegas in our Model S Plaid, our 2021 Kyle's Model S Plaid, and yeah, had a great experience with that car. Of course, it actually ended up beating the Lucid Air Grand Touring, as well as the, I believe it was a rear wheel drive Taycan we had. We were trying to get the most efficient one, and all three legs, Model S beat it. The consistency of the supercharger, you can say all you want about, and I say this to myself all the time, it's like, yes, I want faster charging, yes, I want a better charging curve, but when you pull into a supercharger, it just works. So like, wouldn't it be so much cooler if you could pull in to a supercharger, rip 500 kilowatts deep into the pack, and boom, you're on the road again? It's just, yeah, would be absolutely incredible, to say the least. So I have some interesting thoughts about the Model S, where it sits right now, talking about, okay, you know, this refresh they did wasn't necessarily a huge refresh. And I kind of get it. So here's what I'm struggling with. And reality is Tesla has to run a business, don't they? So they've got to, you know, figure out where to spend money. So spending money on refreshing the 3, refreshing the Y, they're big volume sales vehicles. Makes, of course, a lot of sense. So it's one of those chicken or the egg situations, I feel like, with Model S and Model X of, okay, so, you know, sales numbers don't seem to be great right now, especially when you compare them to 3 and Y. They're expensive cars, you know, and 3 and Y have gotten so good that it kind of rains on the parade a little bit of S and X. But I do still think they have their own, you know, special niches. We'll talk a little bit more about that in a little bit here. But the challenge is, so, you know, if Tesla doesn't sell a ton of Model S's, why go spend millions and millions and millions of dollars redesigning, redeveloping, new body in white, new this, new that, when the car is really impressive, especially considering the price point? And again, I think a lot of people are going to look at me and go, Coleton, this is a $105,000 car. I expect more. And I would say, yeah, in terms of, you know, fit and finish here and there, I've been very critical of Tesla, and getting in this brand new car and still having rattles is not a fun experience. But when you look at this car on paper, the range, the battery pack, the size, the charging, the power, all of those combined, mixed with amazing software, the reliable Tesla supercharger network, it's a very hard car to ignore. So it's this really hard conundrum that I'm in with this car, and really struggling to say, you know, Tesla didn't do enough, because I also feel like Model S is so good as it is. And the minimal improvements I think they did here, number one being these seats, I am blown away with these. I absolutely love these seats. I genuinely wish they would put these seats in Model 3. These are way more comfortable. They fit my very thick body size a lot better than I really anticipated them to. And yeah, just super comfy there. So really interesting. I mean, you know, okay, this interior's been in Model S for now since 2021, so going on, I guess, you know, 4 or 5 years or so at this point. And that's kind of the tricky part. It's just, it's so good. I don't know. Every time I get back in a Model S, I'm just impressed with it. And I think the hard thing with this review is there's not many things I sit here and think about the Model S that I would be like, oh, if you change this and change that and change this, it would be such a better car, because it's already pretty darn impressive. Now, again, one of the biggest things I would like to see improved is these freaking rattles. I'm sitting here on Highway 34 going from kind of Greeley to Loveland area, and I'm hearing rattles up here, I'm hearing rattles here, hearing it over there. That stuff hasn't improved, and that's really, really frustrating. Tesla has to get that kind of stuff figured out if they want to sell quote unquote luxury cars. And yeah, do I feel like the interior though is not luxury? I mean, to me, I have a little bit different and a nuanced perspective with this because I'm a professional detailer. I deal with a lot of high-end cars, Porsches, Lamborghinis, Ferraris. I've done them and been around them and cleaned them. And every time I, detail real leather, it's always worse than Tesla interiors or Rivian for that matter. These interiors hold up so well. They look great. They're more cost effective. They're better for not, killing all the cows and stuff. I'm not here to greenwash anybody. I really hate that they call it vegan leather, this, that, and the other. But yeah, it's really, I don't know. It's a hard one here. So I'm kind of wrestling with, I want Tesla to improve. I want to see their charging curves get better. I want to see them playing with the bigger boys. And when you compare the stuff we're seeing here in the States to China and Europe, it's like we're not even close. But it's still like Model S is just such a good default car. And I hate to say that because it's 1,000 horsepower and it's still fun to drive and it has amazing software. It still charges okay. Kyle and I can be as critical as we can be and say, I want a Taycan charging curve. I want, the golden brick battery from Zeekr in a Model S and charge at 500 kilowatts and all of that fun stuff. But reality is here, when you road trip something like a Model S, which I've done, or a Model 3, really, you're ready to pull over when the car's ready to charge. You go in, you get a drink, you get back in the car and the car's ready to go again. I'm not one of those guys that's like, I need 500 miles of range. That is not me. I think 300 miles for myself is more than enough range. I just want a curve on a car. So, for me, like even my EV6 or EV9, being able to, be on a road trip or, go down to Denver and like, oh shoot, I didn't charge the car. I'm not going to have enough to make it back. And I don't want to pull in dead. I can plug in at 30% and get full power till 60%, where Tesla's like, oh, between 0 and 35% is full power, and then it just falls off a ledge. That's the frustrating part I have with these cars. But I also do understand people saying that, the car charges just as fast as I need. It's those times where, I'm going into the canyons and I want to do a deep charge on the car and I'm like sitting there at 50% pulling under 100 kilowatts when something like, my Kia EV6 is pulling 240 kilowatts that I just want to pull my hair out. Not that I have any more left, but that's kind of what we're getting at with the charge curve. So yes, I would like to see that. I understand people would like to see 800 volt and 48 volt and, steer by wire. My personal opinion is steer by wire would ruin the Model S because this thing is still fun to drive. You can go have fun on a canyon road. For me, the Cybertruck, and yes, it's heavier than Model S. It's a truck and not a, sleeper type sedan. It's not a car I want to go drive super fast. The steer by wire to me still feels numb. It doesn't feel like handling a steering wheel. It's more, too sharp at times. Again, the more you drive the car in those situations, the more you get used to it. But for me, like, the steering ratio on Model S is fine. Would it be cool to have rear wheel steering on this? Sure. You get up into BMW i7, a lot of the German cars, and they all have rear wheel steering, and that's, really, really nice. So that'd be an improvement I would like to see. But I guess what I'm getting at here, guys, is, I'm sitting here driving this car today, and I just keep thinking about the value proposition of this car. We also can't ignore that these cars drop like a rock in depreciation. There's no doubt about that. Kyle purchasing his Plaid at 142, 145 grand, whatever it was, and being worth $50, maybe $60,000 now is pretty crazy. So that's hard to ignore. I guess the elephant in the room would be a lot of people are going to have a question of, should I upgrade my 23, 24 Plaid to the new one. I personally don't see a big enough difference to be able to do that, but if you're coming from, very early Model S Plaid, like a 2021, or you're coming from a Model 3, started to make more money, you want to get a big boy car, this is the best Model S I've ever driven. It's still annoying. If the rattles would go away, I'd be like, dude, I'm sold, I want one. But it's just still that air of not caring about things that the Germans do. You get into a Taycan, that car is stitched properly. Everything feels perfectly made. And Tesla just, in some ways, feels a little cheap. And again, look at Taycan prices, look at this price. So you have to give and take somewhere. I don't think we're, completely oblivious to that. And for me, getting back into this car is just a real appreciation for the Model S. I mean, I've never really lusted after this car, but damn, every time I get back in these cars, I'm just like, these are just great. You just bomb on the highway. The charging curve is better than Model 3 and Model Y. It's comfortable, it's quiet, it's stupid fast. And I think that's the challenging thing. So yes, I understand the criticisms. Tesla should do more. They should do better. I agree with that. But on the other hand, they've got such a great platform here that it's hard to ignore. I guess the best analogy to think about the Model S right now, to me, the Model S seems like the all-season tire kind of in the electric car world. It does so many things so well. But when you get into those very specific niches of, needing, again, analogy keeps going here, needing a winter tire, needing a dedicated summer track tire, that's where it starts to lose a little bit. So the software is incredible. The charging speed isn't the fastest, but it's very reliable. The car is faster than anybody absolutely needs. 1.99 seconds, 0 to 60. You are faster than 99.9% of the cars on the road, and it's not even funny. This is go to jail very quickly speed in these cars, and it's hard to ignore when you're driving one. So that's the real challenge I'm at with this car. It's, they've done so many good things here that I'm really struggling to put my finger on, like, major things that would totally change the daily driving experience of this car. Reality is, again, going back to charging, that's what we talk about here all the time on Out of Spec. You give this thing 500 kilowatt charging, is that going to change your 30-mile commute? No. You charge at home. And your 1% use case of maybe occasionally road tripping your Model S. Okay, yeah, you're going to save time, but like, I don't know. This is things we wrestle with all the time that I don't think you guys necessarily hear, because we're always trying to push and push and push. But I didn't want to come into this video and go, Tesla's lazy, they did this all wrong, because the Model S is such a good platform as it is. The screens are great. These seats are just incredible. Having a beautiful panoramic glass roof like this, having a hatch in the back of the car, all of those components really add up to a very cool, fun vehicle that is still kind of in a category of its own. Again, you can compare this to Lucid Sapphire. You can compare this to Taycan Turbo GT. Those are 250K plus. This is 100K. It's a big, big difference there. So, pretty interesting feelings there. I'm curious to know what you guys think. Am I being too nice to Tesla? Am I not being critical enough? Do I criticize them too much? I'm curious to know in the comment section what you think. I get the frustration with the car. I totally do. I'm not sure they necessarily did enough, but it's also like one of those things, if it's broke, do you absolutely need to fix it? Would I like to see a more improved, crazy suspension in this? Like something like that's on a Rivian, or, even you go to Lucid, they use a normal traditional spring and damper setup in that without air suspension. And I think the car drives better than this particularly does. I still have issue with the suspension. I'm feeling it right now. We're going over, this is the worst road on the way to work sometimes here. We've got it's asphalt with some pretty big cracks in it, and every car feels not amazing over this, but the car gets kind of nervous over this. It's you bump over it and the car kind of shifts. You bump over it and the car kind of shifts. That kind of stuff I'd like to see ironed out, but like BMW i7 over that is just like, you know, floating on a cloud. But then again, it's like, it's compromised because that's not a car I want to go hoon. This is a car I want to go enjoy. So having that kind of spider web, you have to compromise somewhere. I always, you know, laugh just to say, you know, Lucid, compromise nothing. Everything is a compromise you do in a car, no matter what. You put an all-season tire on a 1,000 horsepower car, it's going to be limited on traction. It's still unbelievable how Tesla can put down 1,000 horsepower through these tires that I think are like the OE spec tire on probably a Honda Civic, being a Continental Pro Contact. Like, it's insane what they can do with these cars. So yeah, very mixed bag for me. It doesn't, again, I wouldn't, if I had a relatively new Plaid, I would not be running to the Tesla dealership to throw $100,000+ on the table and go, give me the new car, because it's not that big of a change. But there are things I appreciate. Again, I'll say it 100 times. These seats, fantastic. Put these in the Model 3. They're great. The other thing I really appreciate is that finally Plaid has its own kind of styling to it. You can, you know, say you don't like the styling, that's fine. It takes time to grow on you. Early Model 3s, when they came out, the new Highland, I was like, ugh, like the old one better. I've now had my new Model 3 Highland for a month. Absolutely in love with it. So things take time to grow. I would encourage you, if you're like not super into this car, to go drive it and see what you think. I do think there's improvements. I don't think it's the best car I've ever driven in the world, but it does so many things so well, except for that rattle right there over this very uneven road that's driving me nuts. Yeah, very mixed bag here. So let's get back to the shop. We'll show you one more time around the car, and then we'll finish off this video. All right, guys, so sorry for the wind noise if you do hear it a bit, but I want to walk around the car here, just give you my final thoughts here on the Model S. Again, quote unquote refresh. Still really is a refresh, but man, yeah, really missing a lot. Again, I'm not necessarily sure that's a completely bad thing. I understand it from a business perspective, where Tesla's coming from, dumping millions and millions of dollars into fully redesigning the Plaid, and yeah, not really selling that much more. Doesn't really seem like a great business decision to me. So it's been a really interesting bag with this car. Again, getting back in the Model S made me realize how great the Model S actually is, the really good things this car does. And again, I still think it's a really nice, beautiful car. Tons of power, tons of tech inside with all the Tesla software, the phone key integration, the full self-driving, the app, the this, the that. They do so many things so well. So that's kind of the angle I'm coming at this car, and I really hope that makes sense. Again, sure, I would have loved to see a fully redesigned Model S and, you know, go crazy, 800 volt, steer by wire, this and that, new suspension, all this stuff. That takes time. That takes a lot of money. Do I think the car needs it? Yes and no. Again, my experience with this kind of this evening has been, yeah, it's still a great car for $110,000. I'm not sure it's going to sway many people with the new upgraded design to, again, run to Tesla, lay down $105,000 and put your money where your mouth is for the new Model S, because yeah, it's largely the same Model S. Are there some nice improvements? 100%. Now, the styling may not be for everybody. I'm still really trying to warm up to the front bumper here, and especially the rear bumper, just because original Model S, well, not original, but last generation Plaid was just such a striking car. It was simple. It had such a great design to it. And now adding more of the piano black in here in areas is just taking my eyes a little bit of time to definitely get used to. I mean, the front license plate holder there is not making any favors for the front end of this car. Also, why does Tesla only put this on the Model S and not X, not S, or not, of course, they put it on S, not 3 and Y. It's kind of strange to me. I also think the wheels are just absolutely killing the vibe for me. These are really not it. The new wheels, man, for S and X, I'm just not there on them. They look cheap. They really... this is going to be really rude and really harsh. These look like you went to AutoZone and got the cheapest hubcaps you could and slapped them on the car. Not a very pretty wheel in my impression. I'll be curious to see the new 21-inch wheels, but it's a $4,500 option. For me, man, the way to go, spec the base wheel, grab a set of Martian MW05s, and you'll have one hell of a good looking Model S. So I do like some of the new styling cues. Again, the front splitter here I think looks nice, kind of, you know, a callback to the new Model 3 Performance Highland. I am slowly getting used to and appreciating that new piece there. For me as a detailer, going to be really nice to be able to clean that area, because the last time just fills with bugs and dirt and grime. I like the new spoiler, how it's got this little indentation here. It's subtle, but it's nice and really extends that back end. I think it looks really good. The new rear bumper, the rear diffuser is really aggressive on this car, and this kind of slit in here is really interesting. Again, it's taking some time for me to warm up to this car and the design language of it. You guys have eyes. You can make your own decision on if you love it, if you hate it, if you're somewhere in between. I think that's totally cool. But again, my full experience with the Model S here is it's still just such a good car, even in the context of 2025. There are not many cars that touch what this car do in a whole package. Okay, yes, you could improve charging. Okay, yes, you could give it a crazier suspension and do this and do that to it. But at the end of the day, guys, this is a 1,000 horsepower tri-motor Model S that munches miles, and it looks amazing. What more do you really need? I mean, that's where I'm really confused with this. So again, really appreciate some of the finer aspects to this car. The new seats are absolutely sublime. Absolutely love them. They look fantastic. We're also going to get the little Tesla thing here, as you see it lights up the rest of the cabin. That's pretty cool. You can see, you know, the new ambient lighting. The way they did this, I have to give them very nice props here. It looks really nice. But again, even here in 2025, I look at this car, it looks futuristic, especially with the new seats. I still think it's a very cool car. So that's my feelings on the Model S. I'm curious to see what you guys have to say in the comment section below. Am I too nice to Tesla? Was I not critical enough? Was I too critical? Anywhere in between. I'm sure we'll give a gamut of responses here from you guys, as we always do. And yeah, my feelings are, it's the best Model S I've driven. There's still things I'd like to see improved. Number one, fix the freaking rattles, Tesla. Please fix the rattles. Nobody should be throwing down 100 grand and have a brand new car that rattles like this Model S. It is so frustrating and needs to get fixed. Nonetheless, I think it's still a cool car, and I'm gonna quit rambling. Thanks so much for watching. We'll see you in another one soon. Bye-bye.